Hey there, truth seekers. Professor Paradox 404 here. It's good to have you back. Before we begin, plug in your headphones. Every detail matters here. Close your eyes for a second. Breathe in. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a warning, a memory, or maybe a suppressed truth no one was supposed to remember. Let's begin. What if everything we thought we knew about alien life was a distraction? Because the real threat is us. From a future we were never meant to see. Buried deep beneath the scorching sands of the Nevada desert, something was found. Not by accident, not by fate, but as if it wanted to be discovered. At first it looked like wreckage. Just another rumor in the long shadow of Area 51. But then they went deeper. What they unearthed wasn't extraterrestrial. It was unmistakably human and impossibly advanced. Its structure, untouched by time. Its markings identical to ours, but older, much older. As if something, had already been here, before us. And what they brought with them wasn't hope. It was a warning. For decades, the government kept it quiet, sealed beneath classified levels of the desert, until a signal emerged, one too large to hide. A body now looms in orbit above Earth, silent, motionless, watching. And somehow, it's all connected to that impossible ship beneath Nevada's sands. Because what they found wasn't just a spacecraft. It was an echo of a timeline we're about to repeat. And if that buried craft was never meant to be found, then why did it resurface now? There are moments in history when we look back and realize we were warned. This might be one of those moments. If you've ever felt like something out there is watching us, if you've ever had that feeling that time itself has bent in strange ways, you're not alone. What we're uncovering goes beyond conspiracy, beyond sci-fi. This is about a future that's leaking into our present, and we may already be too close to stop it. So before we dive deeper into what the team discovered inside that impossible ship, I need to ask you something important. If this kind of truth hits you like it hit me, like a chill you can't shake, hit the like button so this reaches more people who need to see it. And drop a comment below if you've ever felt like you weren't supposed to know something, because you're about to see exactly why. Most of all, if you want to be here when the next piece of this story unfolds, subscribe to the channel now. What you're about to hear was never meant to go public. It started as a routine geological survey. A small private team hired by a defense contractor supposedly scanning for minerals. The area was a restricted stretch of the Nevada desert. The coordinates were vague, and so was the reason for the urgency, but they weren't the first to be sent out there. Others had tried, quietly. None had reported back anything unusual. Until that day in July 2003. What the scanners picked up wasn't a mineral formation. It wasn't even geological. It was metallic, immense, buried hundreds of meters below the surface in an area with no record of crashes, launches, or military waste. The shape was nearly perfect, too smooth to be natural, and far too large to be a satellite or aircraft. Still, the team assumed it had to be Cold War debris or some top-secret prototype lost to time. They were wrong. As excavation began, the scale of it became undeniable. This wasn't a craft built to fly in Earth's skies. It was too large, too alien in geometry, and yet, something about it felt oddly familiar. The outer hull was dark, matte black with a texture like obsidian, but it resonated at certain frequencies, as if it was reacting to sound itself. Symbols were etched deep into the surface, not in any alien script, but in something disturbingly human. English, Latin, binary, dates, coordinates, and one phrase repeated in several places: "We tried." The entrance wasn't sealed. It was waiting, perfectly preserved even under pressure. The internal structure opened without resistance. There was no decay, no dust, just corridors of unfamiliar angles, lighting that activated on proximity, and technology embedded into the walls like veins in a body. And then, in the central chamber, they saw it. A bridge, a control center, 6 chairs, and 6 containment pods, all filled. The crew wasn't alien. That was the first true horror. Every figure inside those pods was unmistakably human. Clothing scorched and sealed, faces pale, limbs suspended in a stasis fluid that seemed to resist analysis. Their fingerprints, DNA, even their retinal scans, all human, all us. But the worst part? The uniforms. They bore flags, some recognizable, others not. One bore a US patch with 13 stripes, but no stars. Another had markings in a hybrid language, half English, half something unknown. And one suit had no insignia at all, just a date stitched into the collar, 21 to 93. That was the moment when the military took over. Instantly, the geologists were removed, silenced. The dig site was covered within hours, and communications scrambled. But something had already leaked. One of the field techs had transmitted a burst of compressed data before they were shut out. Raw imagery, environmental readings, metadata with impossible time signatures. The file names alone were chilling. Return node, field lock. They are still alive. But even that wasn't the moment everything changed. That came later, because inside one of those pods, one of them moved. Barely. Just a twitch of the fingers. Then a slow shift of the eyes, dilated, scanning, terrified. Medics rushed in, but it was too late. He tried to speak. The text caught only a fragment through the fluid. One phrase, "Don't look up," and then his vitals flatlined. What did he mean? Why that? Was it a warning? A memory? A command? The message spread quickly among the few who had seen it, and theories began to swirl. Was this ship from our future? A future that already happened? What were they fleeing from, or what were they trying to stop? We had just begun to uncover the impossible when something even more disturbing surfaced. Literally. Because as this ship lay underground, sealed away and forgotten, something in orbit began to change. Quietly, silently, as if awakened by our discovery. And the sky was about to show us exactly what we were never supposed to see. They thought it was just a machine, a relic, a warning maybe. But when the containment pods inside the buried spacecraft began to hum on their own, the entire energy in the room shifted. This wasn't an archaeological discovery. This was something alive, or at least something that refused to stay dead. The pods lined the chamber in a perfect arc, glass thick enough to stop a bullet, yet clear enough to see the details no one was prepared for. Human faces, locked in expressions of pain, fear, and something else, a kind of awareness. The fluid inside pulsed with a faint blue glow, and as the team stepped closer, monitors hidden in the walls lit up, showing biometric data still active. Heart rates, brain waves, eye movement. One of them was blinking. The silence in that moment was louder than any alarm. Everyone froze. A soldier raised his weapon without thinking. The technician operating the scanner backed away, muttering something about false positives. But it wasn't false. The readings spiked again. Then the fingers moved. Just a twitch at first, then a full, slow, grasping motion. As if the figure was waking up from a nightmare it had been trapped in for centuries. He wasn't ancient. That was the part no one could process. The man in the pod looked young, late 30s maybe. Short brown hair, a scar across his left temple. His eyes flicked open, wide, alert, terrified. Then he began to panic. The fluid churned violently as he fought against it, his mouth open, screaming soundlessly. The medics rushed in. They tried to release the seal, but the system resisted every override. Someone finally triggered a manual release valve, and the pod hissed open with a sound that no one ever forgot. He collapsed into their arms, coughing, retching, gasping for air like a drowning man pulled from another dimension. They tried asking him questions. Who are you? What year is it? What happened to the others? He couldn't speak, not at first. But then he locked eyes with one of the officers, and his voice came out hoarse, shaking, barely audible through cracked lips. Don't look up. 3 words. That's all he said before his body went into violent seizures. His pupils dilated, skin turning pale, veins darkening beneath the surface. Whatever kept him alive inside that pod was no longer working. He convulsed for 27 seconds before flatlining. The room went still. No one breathed. And then the whispers began. Why that phrase? Why those words? Don't look up. It didn't make sense, at least not yet. But when they checked the internal logs of the pod system, they discovered something even more chilling. The stasis cycle had not failed. It had been interrupted, externally, as if something triggered him to wake up, just long enough to deliver that message, which meant someone or something wanted it heard. Security tried to scrub the footage, but it was too late. A backup was already circulating among the scientific team. Analysts ran voice deconstruction on the audio, trying to determine stress levels, origin of dialect, even subtle inflections. The conclusion was shocking. He wasn't afraid of what was above. He was afraid we hadn't seen it yet. And the others in the pods? They were still in stasis, unmoving. But their brain scans weren't flat. They were dreaming, locked in synchronized REM cycles, showing identical spikes in activity every 12 minutes, down to the millisecond, as if they were linked, sharing one dream, or receiving the same transmission. That's when one of the analysts said something no one wanted to hear. This isn't a crew, it's a message. What kind of message leaves 6 human beings suspended in time? Beneath a desert? Carrying scars from a future we haven't lived yet? What kind of force bends the laws of biology just to deliver 3 words? And most terrifying of all, if one of them woke up because something up there moved, then maybe the rest will wake up too. The military brought in cognitive specialists, neurotheorists, even linguists. One theory suggested that these humans weren't just from our future. They were from a version of Earth that never made it, a timeline that collapsed, and they didn't come to escape it. They came to stop it from happening again. Because deep inside that ship, past the pods, deeper than any of them had gone yet, was a sealed vault, one that hadn't been opened. Not yet. If the idea of impossible technology and floating cities inside that spacecraft blew your mind, don't let this story slip away. Hit that subscribe button now, so you won't miss a single detail of this journey through the mysteries of the future and the reality we thought we knew. And tell me in the comments, what's the most shocking vision you imagine inside that ship? For me, it's the fact that there are star maps that don't match ours. That changes everything, right? I really want to know what you think, so drop future tech. If you believe we're on the edge of a discovery that will turn everything upside down, let's unravel this mystery together. At first, everything inside the craft seemed frozen in time, silent, preserved. But once the core chamber was breached, nothing about it felt old. The air didn't smell of decay, the walls didn't rust. Instead, they hummed, like something still alive or waiting to be awakened. The floor was smooth, metallic, yet warm to the touch. And at the center stood a pedestal, like a command console, lined with crystalline interfaces no one had ever seen before. When one of the team members touched it, just out of instinct, something activated. A pulse ran through the room. The lights dimmed, and then the air shimmered. A projection flickered to life. Not just images. Entire cities hovered in the sky, held up by towers of magnetized light. Oceans were black. The moon was fractured. There were no continents as we know them, just scattered fragments of what once was Earth. Everyone in the room froze. These weren't alien worlds. These were us. Just not now. Or maybe not here. One by one, the projections changed. Some looked like ruins. Others like versions of Earth that had adapted to something enormous. In the sky above every city was a shadow, a sphere, motionless, watching. Then came the maps, star charts, light years beyond anything in our catalog, constellations we've never recorded. But they were marked with dates like they had been observed and documented. Except those dates were in the future, decades, centuries, and beside each one, a symbol, a growing black circle. One of the techs accidentally triggered another sequence. The room sealed. Gravity seemed to shift, like the craft remembered how to move. Then, a single orb rose from the console, hovering in midair. It emitted a soft tone, and then a burst of light formed a 3D hologram. A recording, human voices speaking in panic, shaking cameras, sirens, and behind it all, an approaching darkness, a curvature in the sky, like something massive was pushing against reality itself. The recording cut to a figure, someone in a pressure suit, barely conscious, whispering the same phrase the dying crew member had said earlier, "Don't look up." Only this time, the voice trembled, like it had seen something beyond comprehension. Behind them, the sky was cracking. From that moment on, the mood shifted. This wasn't just a strange machine. This was a message in a bottle. From the future, from ourselves, from a version of us that had lived through something catastrophic, something we're not supposed to know. Yet here it was, beneath our feet. The scientists tried to stay rational, but nothing about what they were seeing followed any rules of physics they knew. The technology, the visuals, the voice recordings, all felt like a direct transmission from a fractured version of reality, one where time had folded back on itself. There was one last chamber, locked until a biometric scan recognized the touch of one of the crew members. Inside was a wall filled with memory crystals, thousands of them, like data logs, but not digital, organic. And when connected to a reader, they triggered flashes of thought, emotion, whole lived memories from people not yet born. One crystal showed a planet burning, another showed a colossal being hovering silently over Earth's last city. But one showed a countdown, and the numbers matched our current timeline, almost to the day. Someone whispered, "This isn't a spacecraft. It's a lifeboat from the end of the world." But what kind of end? And what were we supposed to do with this knowledge? That's when something on the ship began to power up again, a mechanism none of them recognized. And on the main display, one word in English blinked softly, over and over: return. This was not the end of the discovery. It was the beginning of something none of them could comprehend. And far above, in orbit, something had already begun to move. The message didn't stay secret for long. Not because someone wanted it leaked, but because something in the ship had already begun transmitting. Low-frequency pulses, untraceable by standard military arrays, but they were picked up by a nearby listening station. The station was run jointly by a private aerospace contractor and a black-budget intelligence wing. Within 2 hours of the activation, the Nevada site went dark. Total lockdown. GPS scrambling, airspace sealed. The team who made the initial discovery was taken away, separated. Not arrested, not even questioned, just vanished. Official records say it was a failed mining test, a geothermal drill misfire, a cover story so bland it didn't raise suspicion, because that's how you hide something that matters. You bury it in the ordinary. But one man didn't vanish, not completely. He was a systems analyst, mid-level clearance, no military background, just a pattern recognition expert. He wasn't supposed to be in the field, but when the memory crystals were activated, something in him triggered. He started seeing things before they played out, a kind of déjà vu, but sharper, precise, like memories from a future he'd never lived. And he knew. They wouldn't let him live long with that in his head. He went silent for 13 days, off-grid. Then, without warning, a burst of encrypted packets hit a dormant subdomain tied to a long-defunded SETI initiative. No name, no explanation, just footage, still frames, audio logs, star charts, and a log entry dated exactly 42 years into the future. It was written in English, but with altered syntax, like language evolving just enough to feel alien. The logs referenced a failed attempt at re-entry, not into Earth's atmosphere, but into its timeline. The words were fragmented, disoriented, but one line stood out: chronospike breached, relay not achieved, temporal lockdown compromised, external intelligence aware. That single phrase, External intelligence aware, triggered immediate protocol redirection across 3-letter agencies, not just military ones. Aerospace, energy, even agriculture, oddly enough. Anything that could be tied into geospatial memory or environmental signal loops. Because apparently, the spacecraft wasn't the first thing found in the Nevada desert. It was just the first one intact. Less than 12 miles from the excavation site, buried under a failed research compound tied loosely to a DARPA-adjacent project, there was something else. Not a ship, not tech, but a footprint, a colossal one, burned into the rock strata itself. A depression in the shape of a human foot, except it spanned nearly 40 meters across. It had no tread, no signs of construction, just pure pressure, as if something had stepped through reality, left its mark, then left, or waited. The analysts' files were recovered. Most were erased the moment they were downloaded, but a few fragments remained, just enough to horrify the few who saw them before the sweep. There was a time-stamped entry that didn't make sense, not because of the date, but because it moved. Every time someone opened the file, the timestamp updated to today. It was always now, and that's what broke the silence. A retired intelligence officer came forward anonymously. He claimed the Nevada craft wasn't the first temporal incursion intercepted, just the first to carry humans. He spoke of failed attempts to weaponize time folding, of a program called Echelon Mirror, which used synchronized atomic clocks and sub-zero magnetic lenses to peer seconds into the future. At first, they only saw static, then patterns, movement, but it wasn't ours. The equipment started detecting reflections of observers who weren't in the room, who never had been, and sometimes would never be. One technician said it best: "We weren't looking into the future. We were looking into a version of ourselves that had already lost." It didn't matter if anyone believed him. The cover-up had already evolved past needing secrecy. It became noise, distraction, flooding the system with false flags, UFO sightings, sensationalized leaks, just enough to discredit the truth by surrounding it with fantasy. But the analyst, he had one last move. Before disappearing, he embedded a data fragment in a publicly accessible NASA archive. Harmless looking at first, a misfiled telemetry log from a satellite that no longer exists. But when translated with the ship's crystal interface, it reveals coordinates and a directive: observe the sky, do not signal, they are listening. At first, it was just a shadow, barely noticeable, hovering on the edge of astronomical datasets like a smudge someone forgot to erase. Civilian observatories in Chile, Hawaii, and Eastern Europe started picking up anomalies. A steady gravitational fluctuation that shouldn't have been there, something interfering with satellites, throwing off orbit predictions by microfractions. Most thought it was a glitch, a software bug, maybe space debris. But then the readings kept getting more precise, more consistent. Something enormous was entering a fixed position above Earth, and no one was talking about it. It didn't reflect light. It didn't emit heat. Telescopes couldn't get a clear image because, somehow, it wasn't visible through traditional spectrums. But radio telescopes picked up silence. Not empty space silence, active silence. A field, a presence, dampening energy itself. That's when a leaked internal memo from a university in Munich went viral. It showed a low-res gravity map. An object with measurable mass, larger than the Earth itself, had assumed a geosynchronous orbit. Perfectly still, perfectly quiet, no movement, no noise, just watching. Panic didn't spread like wildfire, because no one knew. The story was suppressed within hours. Accounts deleted, hard drives wiped, but some files were mirrored, copied, whispered in forums and encrypted groups. That's where it started showing up again. The Colossus. People began calling it the Black Shell, the Sentinel, or just the Eye, because in every infrared capture that was recovered, there seemed to be a single curve in its outline, almost like a lid, or a massive sleeping iris. One amateur astronomer from New Mexico said it best: "It doesn't move because it doesn't need to. We're already inside its focus." And that's when the real fear began to set in. Because nothing that size should exist. Not in low Earth orbit, not without disrupting everything we know about physics. But there it was, suspended above us like a god that had just opened its eyes. And then someone connected the dots. They pulled up a dataset from the Nevada spacecraft's logs. Those scattered decrypted bits leaked from the Area 51 adjacent dig site. Among the holographic archives, one sequence stood out. It was a trajectory map, a flight pattern from deep space curving toward Earth. And at the end of that curve, the coordinates matched the Colossus exactly. As if the spacecraft we found hadn't just arrived here randomly, as if it had been fleeing. Some now believe the ship wasn't on a mission of exploration or even escape. It was a warning or a distress call. And maybe, just maybe, the colossal presence now floating above us wasn't following Earth. It was following them. And now it's found what it was looking for. And it's waiting. But waiting for what? There's a reason the dying man in the containment capsule whispered, "Don't look up." There's a reason government satellites have rerouted their lenses and why astronomers are being pressured into silence. Because the deeper this goes, the more undeniable it becomes. We are being observed, not just in the physical sense, but in a way that feels personal, ancient, almost spiritual, like something that's been with us before, watching, judging, maybe even returning. And yet, what haunts me most isn't the silence. It's the feeling that somewhere, somehow, we've seen this before. In dreams, in sudden chills, in ancient stories about eyes in the sky that see the soul. This presence isn't new, it's familiar, and it's back. You remember that trajectory map? The one hidden deep within the fragmented holographic logs retrieved from the Nevada spacecraft? At first, it just looked like a meaningless curve, a simple navigation path, maybe a return route. But when someone finally overlaid it onto real-time satellite data of the orbital Colossus, and it wasn't just a match, it was the exact same line. A direct alignment between the ship's approach vector and the current position of the colossal object now suspended above Earth. That wasn't coincidence. That was a message. The implications hit like a punch to the chest. The spacecraft didn't just arrive here randomly. It had been tracking that thing long before it reached our orbit. Or worse, it had been running from it. And if the ship came from a possible version of our own future, that means the entity up there didn't just follow it. It followed us. One of the decrypted logs, one we almost missed, shows what looks like a heat map of mass distribution across deep space. The Colossus registers as a cold void, not zero, not absence, but negative energy density, like it's pulling reality inward, like it doesn't exist in the way matter does, but in the way space breaks, a region where time distorts, where physics begins to fold. That would explain the gravitational distortions, the radio silence, the way telescopes go blind when aimed at it. It's not just an object, it's an anchor, a rupture point, something older than language, maybe older than the universe as we know it. Now, here's the part that really tears at the edges of reason. The Nevada ship had symbols on its walls, not alien glyphs, not mathematical notations, but warning signs. Some in English, some in what looked like distorted versions of modern Earth languages, like they'd evolved along a different branch. And one symbol, repeated again and again, was identical to a faint etching detected in the high-contrast scans of the orbital Colossus, like a seal or a brand, the same symbol, across two vastly different structures, and maybe two timelines. What if the ship wasn't just a vessel, but a last-ditch lifeboat? What if the people inside weren't explorers, but survivors? They didn't come here to study the object. They came here to warn us about it, or maybe to outrun it, if such a thing is even possible. One of the dead crew members had a data spike embedded into the base of his skull. Inaccessible at first, but after weeks of decoding, it revealed a compressed audio burst, distorted voices, screaming, and a mechanical hum layered beneath everything, pulsing like a heartbeat. That same frequency, nearly identical, is now being detected in low-frequency background radiation around Earth. It started shortly after the Colossus stabilized in orbit. At first, it was barely a ripple, but now, it's rising, as if the presence is activating, as if something inside it is beginning to wake up. We've all seen the images by now, the ones they say are fake, the blurred outline, the half-visible arc, like a partial eclipse with no source of light. It's like staring into the absence of sky itself. But those who've enhanced the images claim there's a texture to the darkness, a pattern, like scales or plates, or some kind of vast mechanical skin. And at the center, always at the center, that faint circular formation, like an eye, closed, waiting. The whispered phrase from the dying crew member suddenly makes a lot more sense. Don't look up. Not because looking up is dangerous in itself, but because it might be too late once we realize what we're seeing. Maybe acknowledging it, recognizing it, activates something in return, like a beacon or a key. There's even more. The final frame of one holographic message showed an object falling from orbit, a fiery descent, breaking the clouds. That artifact hasn't been found yet, but we're beginning to think it wasn't part of the ship. It was a seed, a probe, or worse, a piece of the Colossus itself, and it landed somewhere on Earth, possibly years ago. And if that's true, it means we're not just under observation anymore. We've already been infiltrated. Something is already here, growing, spreading, preparing. They thought it was just another theory. Fringe science. Temporal speculation from minds that had read too much Asimov. But when Dr. Elena Mirov presented her findings, alone, exiled from the official committee, something shifted. Her conclusion was unsettling, not because it was wild, but because it made everything make sense. The spacecraft wasn't lost in time by accident. It wasn't a relic from our future. It was from a future that was never supposed to happen. Elena's team had been studying fluctuations in cosmic microwave background data. Random until they weren't. When the colossal object entered Earth's orbit, something in the quantum noise changed. Patterns emerged, coordinates, a timeline signature. According to her simulations, there had been a fracture, an unintended collision between realities, triggered not by nature, but by us, by an experiment with a Hadron Core array in 1998. We thought we were observing the birth of a particle. Instead, we opened a window into a future we should have never touched. In that timeline, Earth became different. Not destroyed, not invaded, but absorbed. The entity we now see in orbit had already been there, in their version of the year 2081. Elena's analysis of the spacecraft's materials showed decay rates inconsistent with any known Earth-based aging. The metals had been altered by time loops, degrading and regenerating simultaneously. One chamber, sealed and still locked, was covered in symbols resembling ancient warning scripts, but in reverse, a language running backwards through time. The chilling part? That sealed chamber has never been opened. The government's black ops teams tried everything. Plasma cutters, molecular destabilizers, even resonance harmonics. Nothing worked, as if the chamber wasn't meant to be opened here, as if it was sealed against our timeline. But it was inside that Dr. Mirov believed the true purpose of the mission was hidden. Not escape, not exploration, but warning. Preventative action. One last hope carried from a doomed Earth to ours. And then came the photographs. One of the surviving researchers leaked 3 classified stills. One showed the interior of the sealed chamber glowing faintly, with lines forming a spiral toward a single eye-like structure in the center. Another showed Earth, our Earth, from orbit, but with a massive shadow cast over half the planet. Not like an eclipse, like a veil. And the third, it was a timeline projection, a branching path. One side green and full of light, the other blackened, erased. The path we're on now. None of this made it into the official narrative. NASA remained silent. The Defense Department denied the existence of any spacecraft in Nevada, let alone one from another possible future. But insiders say Elena disappeared not long after presenting the third image. Her home was emptied in one night. Her family never heard from her again. Some believe she was taken to one of the off-grid research facilities near the Arctic Circle. Others say she's not in our timeline anymore. But that's not the scariest part. The scariest part is what the entity is not doing. It's not attacking, not communicating, not moving, just watching, almost waiting. And if Elena's timeline model is accurate, this silence isn't mercy. It's observation, analysis. Because in that other future, humanity didn't just lose, it merged. The entity didn't destroy Earth. It absorbed it into itself. Our oceans, our thoughts, our memory. What came next wasn't extinction. It was assimilation. And the people on that ship, those who died trying to deliver a message across timelines, they weren't soldiers. They were survivors. Some of them didn't even know they were. One of the crew had written in a journal, recovered near the medical bay. I remember my childhood, my sister, the oceans. But the memories feel copied. I think I'm a shadow of someone who lived long ago. And yet I feel her pain. I feel the moment she was taken. What if we're next? If you're still watching this, it's because you feel it too. Something's off. The sky isn't just empty anymore. There's weight behind it, a pressure, an awareness. If this story resonates with you, if a part of you knows this isn't just science fiction, comment below. I remember the other Earth. It helps more than you think. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next transmission. Trust me, what's coming next will shake everything. There's a whisper in the static, something that's been hiding beneath the surface of our world for decades, buried deep inside the Earth's magnetic field. When the buried spacecraft's equipment was analyzed, a startling discovery emerged. Subtle, encoded transmissions still pulsing through the geomagnetic waves that envelop our planet. These aren't just random noise or interference. They're structured, intentional signals, echoes from the past, or maybe warnings from a future that's trying desperately to break through the limits of time itself. Scientists initially dismissed these signals as natural anomalies, but as more advanced instruments tuned into the magnetic field, patterns emerged that defied all conventional explanations. The transmissions carry complex sequences, mathematical codes, linguistic fragments, even something that resembles a form of cosmic Morse code. The source, a frequency that seems to resonate from deep within the Earth, intertwined with the very core of our planet. It's as if the entity we've been watching in orbit isn't just a distant observer. It's embedded in the Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat, communicating through the planet itself. Some researchers believe these signals are a form of cosmic communication, a bridge between realities. Others say it's more like a spectral imprint, a residual trace left behind by the spacecraft's passage through time and space. But there's a growing theory that these signals are not only alive but active, almost like a call to something or someone, a summons echoing in the invisible currents beneath our feet. And the chilling part is how those signals seem to intensify whenever certain astronomical alignments occur, especially near the colossal body orbiting Earth. The alignment acts like a tuning fork, amplifying the signal, making it impossible to ignore. What does the message say? Decoding attempts have only scratched the surface. Fragments translate into cryptic warnings. Phrases like, "Prepare the threshold," "The eye awakens," and "Don't turn away." Some of these phrases mirror what the crew on the spacecraft warned about. Signals that hint at a destiny intertwined with an event soon to unfold. The connection between these magnetic transmissions and the colossal entity in orbit becomes harder to deny. They are threads woven into the same tapestry of an imminent phenomenon. But it's not just science speaking here. There's an unsettling spiritual undertone in how these signals affect people who come into contact with them. Individuals close to the research teams have reported strange experiences, dreams that feel like memories, sudden feelings of overwhelming presence, a deep-seated awareness that transcends the physical world. It's as if the signals are not just data, but a form of consciousness reaching out, trying to prepare humanity for what lies ahead. These sensations aren't isolated. Across the globe, similar reports surface. Groups of people sensing a shift, a stirring beneath the veil of reality. Some call it a collective awakening, others, a cosmic warning. But whether science or spirit, The signals buried in Earth's magnetic field are undeniable. They suggest something old and vast is not only near, but fundamentally connected to us and our planet. This isn't just a story of alien spacecraft or hidden government secrets anymore. It's about an awakening embedded in the very fabric of our reality, a message that asks us to listen carefully, because ignoring it might mean missing the only chance to change what's coming. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt the strange pull of unseen forces in the quiet moments before dawn, drop a comment below with the phrase, "I hear the signal." Sharing your experience can help us all feel less alone in this growing mystery. And if you want to stay tuned for what happens next, because trust me, there's so much more to uncover, make sure you subscribe and keep your notifications on. What we're about to dive into will shift everything you thought you knew about time, space, and our place in the cosmos. When you peel back the layers of this story, the shocking truth about the buried spacecraft becomes clear. The mission wasn't about escape at all. The crew inside knew, right from the start, that there was no fleeing from what was coming. Instead, they were here to stop it, something terrifying, something that could unravel not just their timeline, but the very fabric of our present reality. Their voyage wasn't a desperate flight into the unknown. It was a desperate attempt to prevent a future none of us ever imagined. The last logs recovered from the spacecraft are haunting. As the crew's voices falter and static cuts through, they speak of a looming event, a cosmic convergence marked by the opening of what they call the Eye, a gateway in the sky that signals a point of no return. They describe it as the moment when the colossal entity we've seen orbiting Earth will make its presence undeniable, crossing from shadow to reality. And they knew it wouldn't just be a passive arrival, it would be an active invasion, a spiritual and physical collapse of everything familiar. But here's the most chilling part. The crew wasn't trying to outrun this fate, they were trying to sabotage it. Their ship wasn't designed to save themselves alone, but to carry a message and a weapon, coded not in bullets or bombs, but in knowledge and technology that could alter the very structure of time. Their hope was that if they could send this warning back, if they could bury this vessel deep enough to be discovered in the right moment, someone in our present timeline might have the chance to stop the catastrophe before it even begins. This idea alone flips everything we think we know about time travel and destiny. It suggests we're not locked into a single future. There are threads, branches, and possible timelines, and the choices we make now could change which one comes to pass. But the question remains, are we ready to see the Eye open? Are we prepared to confront a force that is more than just physical, but a spiritual reckoning, a test of humanity itself? The crew's final message, fragmented and garbled, repeats a chilling mantra: prepare for the reckoning. The Eye sees all. Time is the battlefield. These words hint that what lies ahead isn't just a cosmic event, but a battle for the very soul of our world. And while they sacrificed their futures to send this message, their sacrifice wasn't made in vain unless we fail to act. The weight of that sacrifice presses down when you consider how close we might be to that moment. Signs are already appearing. Subtle shifts in electromagnetic fields, inexplicable power outages, and mass reports of strange dreams where people witness a colossal, watchful presence in the sky. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's an urgent reality unfolding around us, wrapped in mystery but screaming for attention. Understanding the real mission of that buried spacecraft changes everything. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. The government's silence isn't just about hiding alien technology. It's about containing a warning they're terrified to share. It's about controlling information that could either save us or doom us, depending on how we respond. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's the shadow cast by a profound cosmic secret. If you felt a strange unease lately, or if these ideas resonate deep inside you, consider this your invitation to reflect on the phrase, prepare the reckoning. Comment it below, and let's see how many of us are waking up to the same urgent call. Because the truth is, we're all part of this story now, whether we realize it or not. We're now standing at the edge of the abyss, looking toward what's next. And that next step leads us to the final moments before the countdown really begins. But we'll save that for the next part, because the truth has layers, and each one gets darker and more urgent. Right now, all across the globe, subtle but unmistakable signs are converging, like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place that none of us want to fully see yet. The countdown has already begun, not in the way we measure minutes or hours, but in the eerie rhythm of the universe itself. People everywhere report strange dreams, visions of a massive eye opening in the sky, watching, waiting. These aren't isolated incidents. They ripple through collective consciousness like a warning signal encoded deep within our minds, tugging at something ancient and primal. It's as if the very fabric of reality is vibrating in anticipation of an event far beyond our comprehension. Electromagnetic disturbances are increasing too, with inexplicable interference affecting satellites, communication systems, and even the Earth's own magnetic field. Scientists are baffled, scrambling to explain surges of energy that seem to pulse in sync with the orbital colossus, a dark, silent guardian now haunting our geosynchronous space. This presence is no longer just a theory or a secret buried deep underground. It's an unavoidable fact hovering silently above us, casting a shadow on everything we hold real. Meanwhile, governments worldwide have shifted into an unprecedented state of alert, quietly ramping up surveillance and security around sensitive sites linked to space and temporal research. Whispers of secret projects resurface, black ops designed not only to monitor, but to attempt control over the mysterious forces now at play. But control may be an illusion. The truth, as the crew from that buried spacecraft warned, is that time itself has become a battlefield. The eye in the sky isn't just watching us, it's waiting for a moment, a signal, a chance to cross over. What that moment will bring remains unclear. Some say it will herald the dawn of a new age, a cosmic awakening that challenges humanity's very perception of existence. Others fear it will unleash destruction unlike anything Earth has seen, wiping out life as we know it and folding our reality into a horrifying alternate future. This duality between salvation and annihilation is the tension that keeps experts divided and governments silent. But for those who've studied the data leaked from the Nevada spacecraft and observed the orbital giant, it's obvious. Whatever happens next, it's beyond anything we have prepared for. And yet, hope flickers in the knowledge left behind by those who came before us. The vessel buried deep beneath the desert sands carried more than just warnings. It held encrypted blueprints for technology, methods to manipulate time, to possibly delay or disrupt the approaching event. But unlocking these secrets requires not only science, but belief. Belief in our capacity to face the unknown and defy the fate once considered inevitable. In this moment, humanity stands on the edge of a cosmic precipice. The signals, both literal and metaphorical, are here, pulsing beneath the Earth's magnetic field, echoing in our minds, whispering a message. The countdown has started. How we respond, what choices we make now, may decide whether we fall into the shadow of that colossal presence or find a way to reclaim our future. If you feel the weight of this truth settling in, or if the idea of a ticking cosmic clock sparks something inside you, take a moment to reflect on the phrase, "The countdown has started." Share it below and join others who are waking up to this unfolding reality. Because this isn't just a story about a buried spacecraft or a distant entity. It's about all of us, facing an urgent cosmic test. And as we move forward, the final act begins, but there's still much more to uncover. The mysteries deepen, the stakes rise, and the question remains, are we ready to face what comes next?